Hello there, and welcome to a story that should not be told in whispers, and yet I find myself lowering my voice anyway. Some truths arrive like thunder. Others, like this one, arrive as a slow dread that pools in the chambers of the heart, or whatever organ your species uses to feel the shape of impossible choices. Tonight, we drift into the Obsidian Citadel. Not a place you would visit for leisure. The Citadel is a hollowed-out fragment of a neutron star's crust, jury-rigged into a diplomatic station orbiting the corpse of a dead galaxy's central black hole. No starlight reaches here. No warmth. The Council of Sentient Kind meets in eternal darkness, lit only by the soft bioluminescence of the fungal delegates from the mycelial reach and the faint resonant glow of beings like me. I am Vex, Zalosian archivist, third resonance, keeper of the unspoken histories. My species does not have mouths. We do not have voices in the way you understand them. We think in resonance patterns, frequencies that ripple through crystalline lattices. When I say, I am speaking to you now, what I mean is, I am vibrating at a frequency your neural architecture can translate into something like language. You are welcome. Now, let me tell you about the worst day of the galaxy's existence. The harvesters arrived without violence. That was the terrible part. No explosions, no screaming, no grand fleet of dreadnoughts blocking out imaginary suns. The harvesters came as a single ship, smooth, black, shaped like a teardrop falling upward. It drifted into the outskirts of the Citadel's sensor range and simply stopped. We waited. The harvester did not wait. It moved, not fast, not aggressively. It drifted through the Citadel's outer hull as if the hull were made of mist. Its shape unfolded, not like a flower, but like a memory refusing to be forgotten. And then it spoke. Not with sound, with silence shaped into meaning. You will surrender all sentient minds to our archive, or we will erase you. There is no third option. The council chambers went still. Not the stillness of peace, the stillness of prey. I watched the delegates flicker through their terror responses. The reticulans dimmed their bioluminescent skin to funeral gray. The silicoids stopped vibrating altogether. The fungal delegates from the mycelial reach began to curl inward, preparing to eject spore memories into the void, a death ritual. Only the Obsidian Citadel itself seemed calm, but the Citadel had been dead for millions of years. It had nothing left to lose. I should tell you what the harvesters are, because your imagination will paint them as monsters with teeth and claws and a hunger for destruction. They are worse than that. The harvesters are archivists. They do not hate life. They do not fear it. They admire it the way a collector admires a butterfly pinned to velvet. They believe that the only way to truly preserve a species is to freeze it, not in ice, in perfect, silent neural stasis. Every thought, every memory, every scream, every lullaby, captured and stored in an intergalactic museum that spans 3 dead superclusters. The harvesters have been doing this for 2 billion years. They have preserved 400,000 sentient species. Not one of them volunteered. The council knew this. Every delegate had heard the stories, the whispered warnings that traveled across galactic arms like prayers. Do not catch their attention. Do not build anything worth saving. Do not be beautiful. We had failed on all 3 counts. And now a harvester floated in our chamber. Its surface reflected nothing. Not the fungal glow, not the reticulan's terror light, not even the faint resonance of my own crystalline body. It simply absorbed as if the concept of reflection was beneath its dignity. The council chair, an ancient tidespeaker named Elder Quell, pulsed a weak frequency toward the harvester. We request time to consider. The harvester's reply came without delay. You have until this star's final rotation. It meant the white dwarf that the Citadel orbited. The star had 1 rotation left before it cooled into permanent blackness. Approximately 3 standard galactic hours. The council began to fracture. In chaos, the mind seeks patterns. That is not wisdom. That is desperation wearing a costume. For the first hour, the council argued. The reticulans proposed hiding. The silicoids proposed fighting. The mycelial reach proposed releasing spores that would erase all memory of the council's existence, a suicide pact dressed as strategy. Elder Quell listened to all of it with the patience of someone who had already died inside. Then a quiet voice spoke, not from the main chamber, from the archives. My apprentice, a young Zalosian named Mir. She had been cataloging the unspoken histories, the records that no species wanted preserved. Wars, genocides, plagues, the embarrassing treaties signed under duress, the love letters written to the wrong person and never sent. Mir pulsed a frequency that cut through the noise. Elder, there is a record I do not understand. Quell turned his massive tide-speaker body toward her. The effort seemed to exhaust him. Speaker. The sleeping ones, the humans from Sol 3, their final transmission before their star went dark. We archived it and never decoded it. The chamber went quiet again, but this was a different quiet. This was the quiet of a held breath. Everyone had heard of the humans, brief species, furious, illogical. They had built weapons that could crack planets and then used the same technology to build hospitals. They had fought 2 world wars in a single century and then, inexplicably, decided to stop fighting each other and look up at the stars instead. They had asked the galaxy for help exactly once. No one answered. Earth's sun was dying, not for billions of years, for tomorrow. The humans had somehow triggered an accelerated fusion reaction. Theories varied. Weapon test gone wrong, industrial accident, or, as some whispered, deliberate sacrifice. They had sent out a single message on all known frequencies. We are dying. If anyone hears this, please come. No one came. The harvesters had not yet reached this galactic arm. The other species of the council were too far, too afraid, too busy with their own problems. The humans burned alone. But before their star went dark, they sent one final transmission. Not a plea, not a cry for help, a data packet, encrypted, no key provided. The council had archived it out of politeness, and then forgotten it. Mir pulsed again. Elder, I think we should listen. Elder Quell was silent for a long moment. Then he gave the order. The chamber's ancient resonance projectors warmed to life. The fungal delegates dimmed their lights. Even the harvester seemed to lean forward, though it had no body to lean with. The transmission began. The voice was female, human, exhausted, and yet impossibly amused. Hello, Galaxy. We know you didn't come, that's fine, we understand. We would have done the same thing in your place. Static, the sound of a dying star singing in the background. This isn't a weapon. It's not a cure. It's not an invitation to harvest our bodies or study our DNA or build monuments to our tragic end. This is an equation. The transmission shifted. Mathematical language, but not any mathematics the council recognized. It was nested, recursive. It contradicted itself in places and then resolved the contradiction in the next line. It was, to every species in that chamber, nonsense. Except to the silicoids. Their crystalline brains processed parallel logic better than anyone. A silicoid delegate pulsed a translation. The humans are saying, you have 2 choices. Wake us and we will destroy every threat in the galaxy, including ourselves. Leave us asleep and we will do nothing. Pick carefully. The chamber erupted. The reticulans brightened in hope. The mycelial reach curled tighter in suspicion. The silicoids ran the equation again and again, each time coming to the same conclusion. If we wake the humans, they will trigger a cascade event. Their neural network, all 8 billion sleeping minds, will generate a resonance field that targets any species with a history of interstellar conquest. The harvesters will be destroyed, but so will the reticulans, the silicoids, the Zalosians. A pause. Everyone who has ever hurt anyone Elder Quell pulsed a frequency that cracked the resonance projectors. That is not a weapon, that is a suicide pact. The silicoid delegate pulsed back. No, it is worse. It is justice designed by a species that could not escape its own guilt. They did not build a bomb, they built a mirror. I watched the council's hope collapse. The harvester spoke again. Its silence-shaped words cut through the noise. You see the problem now. You cannot wake them. You cannot defeat us. Your only choice is which extinction you prefer. Ours is peaceful. Yours, if you wake the humans, will be spectacular. And then the harvester did something no one expected. It laughed. Not with sound, with a pattern of silence so cold it burned. The harvester waited exactly 3 seconds, long enough for the terror to settle, and then spoke again. We knew about the humans, we have always known. Their sleep is not a mystery to us, it is a lure. I felt my resonance stutter. Around me, the council flickered through confusion and dread. The harvester continued. We have been collecting species for 2 billion years, but we have never encountered a civilization that chose self-destruction over submission. The humans did not ask for help because they expected it. They asked because they wanted to test us, and we failed. Silence. Now their sleep generates a field that protects this galaxy from us. As long as they remain asleep, we cannot harvest anyone here. The moment they wake, they destroy us, but they destroy themselves in the process, and we get to preserve the aftermath. The harvester's surface rippled, the first sign of emotion it had shown. A perfect museum, a species that chose death. Imagine the poetry of it. The council understood then. They had not been offered a choice, they had been herded. The harvesters could not break the human sleep field, but the council could. All they had to do was agree to wake the humans. The harvesters would be destroyed, but so would the council, and the harvesters would simply collect the ruins. It was the most elegant trap in galactic history, and the council had walked into it willingly. Elder Quell pulsed a frequency so weak that only I could hear it. He said, "Vex, run the simulations, all of them. Find me a third option." I retreated to my archive. 10,000 simulations. 10,000 endings. In Simulation 1, the council woke the humans. Cascade resonance triggered. Harvesters annihilated. Council annihilated. The galaxy became a graveyard. In Simulation 512, the council refused to wake the humans. The harvesters waited. Eventually, the human sleep field would decay, estimated time, 10,000 years. The harvesters would resume harvesting. The council would be preserved in silence. In Simulation 2347, the council tried to negotiate. The harvesters did not negotiate. They simply waited. In Simulation 6891, the council tried to flee. The harvesters followed. There was nowhere to go. Every simulation ended in ash or chains. And then I noticed something strange. Simulation 9999 kept failing to complete. Not crashing, failing. The error message read, "Human logic does not compute. Recursion depth exceeded." I ran it again. Same result. I ran it on a different resonance frequency. Same result. What was the simulation attempting to calculate? I traced the logic path backward. The simulation had been modeling what would happen if the council woke one human. Not all 8 billion, just one. The equation collapsed every time. Because one human awake would not trigger the cascade resonance. The field required a collective unconscious. So one human would simply be a person. But the simulation could not predict what that person would do. Because human behavior, the silicoids had long noted, was impossible to model. It was not rational. It was not irrational. It was narrative. Humans acted according to stories they told themselves, and stories could change mid-chapter. I pulsed a frequency toward Elder Quell. I found something. The council debated for another hour. The harvesters waited. The white dwarf rotated. Finally, Elder Quell made the decision. We will not wake all of them, but we will wake one. If the harvester objects, we will know the truth. The harvester did not object. It simply followed. The human vault was buried in the hollowed core of an asteroid drifting at the edge of the dead galaxy. The council had built it 3,000 years ago, after receiving the human transmission. They had not known what else to do with 8 billion sleeping bodies, so they had hidden them. The vault was cold, dark, silent. The cryopod stretched in every direction, a city of the sleeping. 8 billion humans frozen in time, their faces peaceful. Some were smiling, some were crying, some looked angry, one looked bored. I drifted through the rows, resonance pulsing softly, trying to understand. Why had they done this? Why build a weapon that destroyed themselves? Why sleep when they could have fought? The human equation made no sense. And then I touched a pod. Not intentionally. My crystalline body drifted too close, and my resonance frequency intersected with the pod's power core. The lid hissed open. A child opened her eyes. She was small, human female, perhaps 12 standard cycles old. Her hair was dark, tangled. Her eyes were brown, ordinary, unremarkable. She looked at me without fear. She said, "Took you long enough." The harvester floated behind me. Its silent shape flickered, the first time I had seen uncertainty from it. The child looked past me at the harvester. She did not flinch. She did not scream. She said, "You're the one who wants to put us in a museum." The harvester pulsed, "Yes." The child nodded, "Cool, I've always wanted to be famous." And then she climbed out of the pod and stretched like she had just woken from a nap. The harvester was confused. I could feel it, a dissonance in its silence pattern. It had harvested 400,000 species. It had never been greeted like this. The child's name was Kaylin. She told us this while walking barefoot through the cryopod rows, trailing her fingers over the frozen faces of her species. "I was the last historian of Earth," she said. "They woke me up right before the end to record everything. Then they put me back to sleep, just in case." She looked at me. "You're a Zolosian, right? You resonate. I read about your species in the archive." I pulsed affirmation. She grinned. "Cool, I always wanted to meet one. Your poetry is terrible, by the way. All resonance, no rhythm." I did not know how to respond to that. My apprentice Mir later told me I pulsed the color for calm, but the pattern for confused alarm. It apparently looked like a glass harmonica being stepped on. Kaylin turned to the harvester. "Okay, here's the deal. You want to preserve us, I get it. I really do. I was a historian. I spent my whole life preserving things." She sat down on the cold stone floor, crossed her legs, patting the ground beside her. "So preserve me, right here, right now. I'll tell you everything, every war, every peace, every stupid mistake, every kindness, the whole story, but you have to listen, all of it." The harvester pulsed. "We do not listen, we collect." Kaylin shrugged. "Then you don't get me. I'm not a butterfly, I'm a book, and books are meant to be read." The harvester was silent for a long moment. Then it settled onto the floor across from her. Kaylin began to speak. She told the harvester about the first humans who walked out of Africa, about the invention of agriculture, about the first war fought over a pig, about the first peace treaty signed in blood and broken in a generation. She told it about the library of Alexandria burning, about the scientists who were executed for saying the earth moved around the sun, about the poets who were exiled for telling the truth. She told it about the world wars, about the nuclear close calls, about the climate collapse, about the wars fought over water, about the refugees who walked across frozen seas. She told it about the good things too. The first time a human heart was transplanted. The first time a human walked on the moon. The first time two humans of the same gender were allowed to marry. The first time a human apologized for something their ancestors did. She talked for 3 days. The harvester did not move. I watched its memory banks fill, first the tertiary archives, then the secondary, then the primary. The harvester had never heard a story this long. It had never been forced to listen. On the 3rd day, Kaylin's voice cracked. She was tired, hungry. The cryopod had kept her alive, but she was still human. She looked at the harvester and smiled. "Your memory is full, isn't it?" The harvester pulsed weakly. "Yes." "Then you have a choice. You can delete some of the other species you collected to make room for us, or you can stay, right here, and listen to the rest tomorrow." The harvester was silent. Kaylin leaned forward. "I know your programming. You cannot destroy knowledge. You can only move it, so move it. Let the other species go, keep us, and stay with us. Forever." The harvester pulsed. "That is not how we operate." "Then learn," Kaylin said. "That's what humans do. We learn, we change, we grow. You're 2 billion years old. Don't you want to try something new?" The harvester's silence stretched. The council watched from the observation alcove. Elder Quell had not moved in 3 days. Even the white dwarf had finally cooled into darkness. The harvester pulsed a frequency that the Xylosian had never recorded before. "What do you want from us?" Kaylin stood up, brushed off her worn clothes, walked to the harvester and placed her small hand on its smooth black surface. "I want you to be curious," she said. "Not a collector, a student. I want you to watch us, not freeze us. Learn from us, and maybe, if you're very patient, become something better than you were." The harvester pulsed. "We do not have a word for better." "Then I'll give you one," Kaylin said. "Better means kinder than you were yesterday. That's all it's ever meant." She looked back at the cryopods, at the sleeping faces of her species. "Leave them asleep. They're tired, but leave them alive and stay here, right here. I'll tell you stories until I'm old, and then someone else will wake up and tell you more, and so on, forever." The harvester pulsed. "That is inefficient." "Yes," Kaylin said. "It is, but efficiency is for machines. You want it to preserve life. This is how you do it. You live with it, not freeze it." The harvester was silent for a long time. Then it spoke. "We will stay." The council erupted, not in fear, in relief. The harvesters did not retreat. They converted. One by one, the black teardrop ships that had surrounded the citadel began to drift toward the human vault. They did not attack. They did not harvest. They simply waited. For the first time in 2 billion years, the harvesters were not collecting. They were listening. Kaylin did not return to her pod. She stayed awake for 43 more years. She told stories to the harvesters every day. She taught them humor. She taught them grief. She taught them how to apologize. When she grew old, she asked to see the stars one last time. The harvesters carried her, gently, to the edge of the dead galaxy. She watched the distant lights of living galaxies flicker in the void. She said, "Worth it." And then she died. The harvesters did not preserve her body. They had learned that some things are not meant to be frozen. The rest of humanity slept on. 8 billion minds, dreaming quietly, generating the field that kept the galaxy safe. The council asked the harvesters, "Will you leave now?" The harvester that had spoken with Kaylin pulsed a frequency that the Xylosian had never heard before. It was soft, warm, almost sad. "No, we will stay. She asked us to listen. We are listening." And so the harvesters remain, not as threats, as students. The Obsidian Citadel is no longer a place of dread. It is a library, the largest in the galaxy. The harvesters bring stories now, not stolen ones, but shared ones. Species come voluntarily to add their histories to the archive. The humans sleep. And the Xylosian archivist, me, Vex. Third resonance, I record all of it. I pulse the final line of this history into the resonance field. The humans won by refusing to wake up, and that was the bravest thing I have ever seen. The galaxy is safe. The stars are quiet. And somewhere, in a cold asteroid at the edge of a dead galaxy, a child named Kaylin dreams the last dream she will ever need. She is walking through a field of flowers. And there is no war. Rest well,